I'm your host. Wait, Dave Knows Comics live stream. Did I say the right thing? Can't tell. Anyway, uh, sorry. Force of habit, if you will. Welcome to the Dave Knows Comics live stream. It'd be funny if I actually said the right thing first, but then forgot, and then thought I said the wrong thing, and actually said the right thing. Wouldn't put it past myself that I did that. Anyway, welcome to the Dave Knows Comics live stream. And for all of you who don't know, on Christmas we got HBO Max premiering Wonder Woman the sequel, and we got this out on theaters as well as on home television. Now I saw it on TV, but it was also on in the theaters too. So I was really excited about this. I wanted to catch up with everybody here, figure out what you guys' thoughts are. Gonna hold off on any kind of major spoiler heavy discussion in the beginning. We'll wait till more people file in and then we'll discuss it a little bit further, get a little more in depth with it. You guys' thoughts are. And but let's take a time out to say hello to everyone. King Kaido, how you doing? Harry Flynn, good to see you. Thank you for the thumbs up right away. And Face up, let's go. Dave Knows Comics live stream. Yeah, let's go. I know it's been a while. I've been focusing a lot of my efforts on the wrestling channel and other pursuits and all that. So I was glad to finally come on here. I have some things waiting in the wings for the comic channel. Just haven't been able to get to it too. So Timothy Mendoza, what's up? Anyway, so yes, um, we're going to talk about the Wonder Woman today. We're going to talk about the Wonder Woman sequel, as well as a little bit of news that came about a potential third movie, as well as a spin-off series that may be happening. So let's discuss the. We'll, like I said, we'll hang tight real quick on any of the spoiler information. We'll let people file in. But let me ask you: have you guys seen it yet? Everybody who's in the chat right now, have you seen the movie yet? Do you have the HBO? I want to know where you guys are standing at before we really dive deep into the stuff. Okay, King Kaido, no. You're looking to avoid spoilers or anything? Don't worry, I'll let you know. You've seen it, Timothy, and those are cool. Okay, I'll let you know when we can. Harry saw it, awesome. All right, I'll let you know before we get into the spoiler territory. We're gonna spend a couple minutes just giving our overall general thoughts and feels on it. So no spoilers yet. We'll make it clear when that has happened. Okay, so but we'll make it clear for everyone. And thank you, King Kaido, for being here. So, when it comes down to it, we got some people who've seen it. Awesome. What did you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'm going to go out for myself, and I'm going to say, no, I definitely did enjoy it. I like this movie. And it's very interesting because it's tough because immediately I compared it to the first one. And there are aspects I like about this one better than the first one, and there are aspects about the first one I like better. So it's kind of hard to juggle it. But overall, I definitely liked it for sure. That's beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm also a big fan of Patty Jenkins' work. I actually think she's a great filmmaker and as also storyteller too, just in general. So I think she's good at both sides of the equation. The movie wasn't flawless by any stretch of the imagination. There were certain things that I got that was a little lost on me. I'm going to this one. Hey, True Sister. Well, thank you for stopping by. We're not going to do any spoilers just yet, so don't worry. I'll tell you when we're ready. I thank you for stopping by, but if you want to hang tight, I'll let you know if you're trying to look to avoid spoilers. Harry Flynn says, I found it better than the first one. Yeah, I understand that. There's a lot of aspects about it that I definitely like better this time around. But yeah. Um, but also, so we'll also take the time out to pronounce some reports out there, some things I've heard that you might be interested. Again, it's not going to spoil anything, so don't worry about that. But there's rumor has it, or I read somewhere that there might be a spin-off Amazon movie before Wonder Woman 3. So Wonder Woman 3 is not going to be the next time we visit the Amazons and this universe, this franchise. So that there's actually going to but the rumor has it there's going to be a Amazon movie that takes place. The way I read it was that it would take place after Diana leaves and talk about the Amazonians and might also get more into the backstory of them because I think there's a lot of meat to that which hasn't been explored. Because if you know from comic books, Wonder Woman's origin has been like one of like several different things. Wonder Woman's origin, like her real, like yeah, she's from Themyscira, but her backstory has been changed multiple times. Some variations she's made from clay. Justice League Unlimited implied that her father was actually Hades and not Zeus. The movie continuity made it Zeus. And as I already talked about on this channel, oh wait, real quick, Timothy Mendoza says I liked it, but also saw the issues that other people were having with the movie. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that too. Let me. Good point. Let's just wrap this up. I'll wrap this up and we'll get into one of the issues I think you might be alluding to. I'm not sure if you are, but I'll bring up one issue that I heard of. But the rumor has it was that I did a video about this. Is that when you looked at Man of Steel and they talked about how Kryptonians in the early days explored around the world, and clearly they knew to send Clark to Earth. How did they know that? Well, there were implications. I break it down in another video on this channel, a much older video on this channel, but that that early Kryptonians actually moved to Earth, and that Zeus was actually a Kryptonian, and all the Wonder Woman descendants are in a way kind of related to Superman. So they've never pulled the trigger on that. They've never taken that away, and they also talk about the language, the Themyscirian language. A lot of the symbols you see very much match the Zack Snyder Man of Steel kind of text, if you will, or they look very similar. I mean, yeah, sure, it's a made-up language, so for all you know that they, you just think it looks the same, but maybe it doesn't. But either way, there's a lot of evidence. Again, watch that video that pits the two together. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually finally go ahead and confirm that. I would like, personally, I would like them to. I actually like that idea. I know some people are opposed to it. They don't want the idea out there that, oh, everything's related to Superman, Wonder Woman's Superman, Wonder Woman's Kryptonian. Like, I'm cool with it because it gives a good rationale for it, and they planted the seed all the way back then. Because that line about how Kryptonians were explorers once upon a time, I don't think it was a throwaway. It felt like something that was going to have significant payoff down the road. And so I think, why not do it this way? And especially as we've seen throughout the DC Extended Universe, there is a lot of this combination of things where Cyborg's origins connect to the Mother Box, which wasn't from comic books. But there's this need that DC is doing to kind of tie threads together. So it does make a lot of sense. I like the idea that Wonder Woman is Kryptonian, but, what are your thoughts if you're cool with it or not? Let me know how you feel about the Kryptonian theory. I am, or hypothesis to be a little more accurate. Yeah, like I said, for me, I like it. I think it's a cool idea. If it's not, I mean, if it's not, if Island of Themyscira, they're just, Themyscirian, that's fine. I'm not going to be crushed if they're not Kryptonian, though. Anyway, so yeah, back to Timothy Mendoza. Yeah, there are some issues that other other reviewers or other people who've seen it have said. I don't know which one's specific, but again, hold on, gotta plug in the old computer real quick. All right, one issue that I know of is that some have said it's a little light on the action, and I understand what they mean. But I don't think light is the right word for it. I think more like its distribution is a little off, because the action set piece, there's one good one in the beginning, which I like, what you've seen in the trailers, but then there's a lot more plot and story that goes on throughout the entire goes throughout it. And then, like, at the halfway point, it feels, then there's an action scene again. You have to go through like half the movie before you get to it. And then, but after that, it's like action scene, action scene, action scene, and you get a fair amount of them. They're just all stacked at the end. So when some people said it lacked action, I don't think that's true. I mean, yeah, there would have been way more if they crammed that first half with more action in it. But I think if they took the actions amount and distributed them a little more evenly, I think people wouldn't have noticed or complained as much. Personally, I don't really mind it. I see what they mean. I get it, and it does feel a little different because of how everything is plotted out. But storyline wise, I don't know how they could have possibly fit one in. I mean, sure, they could have given you a quick. They could have just forced in a couple more action scenes in the first half, but they would have been forced. they would have been extremely forced. Like I could think of like two quick ones they could have really done, just thrown in there for the sake of throwing them in there. But there's no point. At least I think. I think time is a problem. Yeah, I would say that. Oh, thank you for the likes, everyone. Thank you for the thumbs up. I do appreciate it. I do understand. I do understand the timing issue because I felt it too. It doesn't. It's because it's on the border. For me, it's on the border of being paced a little too fast. Because there's a lot of information they're trying to get in there, and they do a really good job. Like for me, Aquaman felt rushed, where it was exposition, blah blah blah, plot about Atlantean government, blah 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 blah, explosion, blah 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 blah. And I still like Aquaman, but that felt a little too much. This Wonder Woman wasn't as bad. It gave you the information, but it was a hair on the side of too quick. Like the first one, this is one of the things I liked about the first one. The way information was delivered in the first one was perfect. I liked, and that was the introduction. That was the origin. They're giving you the whole spiel about Themyscira, Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor, the whole 9 yards. They're telling you everything. The setting of World War One, the Amazons, everything, and they gave it to you in a way that didn't feel forced and crammed down your throat. And they're introducing the universe to you. Meanwhile, this one, you already have it established, but unfortunately, this is what happens. This is a side effect of a lot of time jump movies or TV shows, and a lot of people don't realize that, is when you have a reestablishing of the world that takes place over a large time jump, you don't have the full luxury of being a direct sequel where you can just pick up where you left off. You still have to kind of reset and readjust the world and tell everybody where we're at now. No, you're not completely starting from scratch, but at the same hand, it is slightly more work because you have to do that. And so that's something that a lot of sequels, direct sequels, don't have to worry about. But here, you definitely have to worry about when you do a time jump. And the bigger the time jump, obviously, the bigger questions audiences are going to have that you got to clue them in for. So when Diana hasn't been around for like 70 years, it's been 70 years since we've seen her on screen. We're going to want to know what's she doing. So you have to establish things like, oh, she has a job, or she lives in Washington D.C. And I thought that was cute, by the way. She lives in D.C. and it's D.C. Comics. Anyway, doesn't matter. You have those kinds of issues to balance with and to play with. So that kind of eats at the runtime. So there's more information you have to give to the audience. So yeah. So when you say Harry, I do agree that time was a bit of an issue because it wasn't that bad. As I said, it didn't feel like Aquaman to me. It didn't feel like a lot of rushed plot movies. For me, Avengers Endgame, I kind of felt that way for. Even though it's like a really long movie, it's like a 3-hour movie or whatever. I felt there was a lot of information being thrown at me like relatively quickly because I do believe pacing is important because you need time to let things breathe. You need time to let things marinate. Because it's just if you let things have their time to chill, the information that you have feels more important. If you can establish that. So okay. Okay. So now. Okay. Timothy Mendoza says you're not trying to spoil anything, but the way didn't make sense. Okay. You know what? Hey. Well, I said we would get to spoilers in a minute, and it's been several minutes. And Montoya, tell me none of it really made sense. Okay. Here we are. It is go time. Let's go for the spoilers. Okay, so we finally finished. We finally got ready for this spoiler time. So let's get into spoilers. King Kaido spoilers. Spoilers. I'm gonna let everyone know we're gonna start the spoiler portion of this review right now, so we can really talk about it in depth. Spoiler warning. I've made it very clear. I think. Spoiler room brawl. Spoiler time. Wait. Spoiler alert. Thank you, King Kaido. Okay, so let's go. All right, so. And if you haven't watched it, please do. I do. Again, I recommend it. I do like the movie. So yeah, spoiler alert. Won't affect me too much. Okay, so yeah, I don't agree. Like, yeah, okay, it doesn't make sense. See, a brilliant thing Patty Jenkins has said was that the word cheesy doesn't exist, and I swear this is going to tie into it. She says the word cheesy doesn't exist in her universe. Because there is a fear that a lot of filmmakers have of being campy or hokey or cheesy, and they kind of don't lean into it. They kind of pull back. And the MCU has been notoriously criticizing because they call their fear of being seen as cheesy they criticize everything. They poke fun at everything. There was a deleted scene where they made fun of the name Ant-Man. Like, Ant-Man? It's not that dumb of a name. Audiences don't care about this, but Marvel in a lot of ways shows their insecurities by not committing to everything and wanting to make fun of everything before an audience gets to make fun of it. That way they can say, "Oh no, we're aware of it," and they kind of back off on it. Marvel has been doing that a lot lately, and it's very unnecessary. And Patty Jenkins is 100% right on this. It's a comic book movie, for crying out loud. You're allowed to have fun. Not you don't have to. You can have a little bit of fun with it and have the fictionalized universe and kind of lean into it. So I'm going to tie into this. Um, so when Marvel does it a lot, and they're doing it more and more, I kind of don't like it. Like every little thing, like even the parody of the superhero landing. I get that it's funny, but do we need to poke fun at the superhero landing? Like I don't. It's you're not. Yeah, it's funny when you make jokes about it, but you don't get bonus points for me because there's like tropes of things that they just attack because they think it's silly, and I don't think it's needed, and they do it all the time, and and Marvel's getting more and more with it. Um, there's a several big ones. I'm sure. Oh man, I'm sorry. I had it and I just lost it. It was is one. There's like a really egregious one where Marvel does, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Point of the matter is, it's a comic movie. You're allowed to have fun. Patty Jenkins doesn't believe that the word cheesy exists. So if there is something, if you commit to it, and you know what, Matthew Vaughn, if I'm not mistaken, said this about X-Men First Class, is that if you have the right actors, the audience will believe in anything. They'll hold on to everything. Because if there was one great scene with Magneto, and I think about this all the time in First Class, where Magneto is trying to move the satellite dish, and you see Michael Fassbender, and he just sticks the hands out. It's just a dude sticking his hands out like jazz hands, and yet it feels like he's trying to move the satellite. It's because he's a good actor, and you're committed to it, and you're not backing off and saying, maybe people think this is silly. No, they just kind of lean into it, and this is like, there you go. We're committed to this. This is the universe. This is not a guy shaking his jazz hands at you. This is a man trying to move a satellite, and you buy it. And so, now, clearly, we might have an issue with this. But for me, a lot of the plot is kind of far-fetched, but it's talking about a dreamstone. And it's not, or I really think it's the Philosopher's Stone, but, whatever. It's, it's, and is it silly in itself? If you really wanted to call it out on a carpet and be technical about it, sure. But I feel the commitment of the actors, and I also have to say, not Gail Gadot. I'm never sure how to say her name, but Gail Gadot always, as always, great performance. But Pedro Pascal, fantastic. Again, not surprising, it's Pedro Pascal, but and Kristen Wiig too. I know she's very capable, but I'm used to her as being the funny actress, so I was pleasantly surprised by that. It's not that I doubted her; I was just kind of shocked. I was like, okay, we're gonna have Kristen Wiig go, be scary, and it's like, it was kind of like Kelsey Grammer as Beast. You're like, that does make sense as casting, but at the same time, it's like Kelsey Grammer, and it's like, I'm not gonna run from Kelsey Grammer in X-Men 3, and then, well, X-Men 3 was terrible. When he went off, you're like, whoa, I buy it now, and you're like, whoa, Kelsey Grammer. Yeah, like Kelsey Grammer's like badass, but it's so it always surprises me when you get an actor and you put them in a different light and they do well. It's always a pleasant, even if I expect them to do well, I'm still always somehow pleasantly surprised when they do well. Won't affect me that much. Okay, Ken liked it, but barely. See, I liked it significantly. The plot was a bit dodgy, kind of got lost. Now there are definitely parts of it that I definitely had questions on and I didn't gel to me. But the way I see it, because of the performances, because of the commitment, the lack of fear going into the lack of insecurity going into it, I just go along for the ride and it kind of shuts me up. Like the lassoing on lightning is ridiculous. It absolutely is. But it's kind of that thing that like, screw it, let's just go for it, kind of thing. And that's how I felt about it. Um Let me catch what you guys are saying. Timothy Mendoza says, I like the movie, but one of my many issues with the movie is why did they bring back Trevor's soul in the man's body? Why couldn't they bring him back in his own body? Um, Good question. I don't really have an answer for that. Um, I feel the mixed reactions is another example of people who just want to call a movie a masterpiece or abomination, nothing in between. Hey, Bally, that is 100% right. It's the polarizing effect of the internet. People can't just see the good and bad; they have to pick one side or the other. Now I'm with you on that one. It was just a fun film. Luke says it was just a fun film. I don't know why people are expecting a masterpiece. I don't, but I agree with Bally. I don't know why it's got to be an extreme one way or the other. But for me, I liked it. As I said, in parts of it, I liked it better than the first one, and other parts I liked the first one better. But for here, the reason but continuing on, something ironically that I feel okay, it's not really ironic because I'm gonna word it differently, but um, Wonder Woman. This one had the guts to do a lot of what the MCU hasn't done, and I don't mean to, and you know I'm a huge MCU fan, and I am not a DCEU fan. I like three movies in the DCEU now, two Wonder Womans and Shazam, and I tolerate an Aquaman just because it's like goofy, dumb fun. Um, Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I also like Harley Quinn. I liked Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey, and I know people hate that movie, but I liked it. But I like a lot of. I like a lot of. It's very different from my wrestling side of things, where in comic book world, I like a lot of comic book movies that people hate. Don't get me wrong. There's some that people hate that I hate too, but there's a lot of like goofy comic book movies. I'm like, I like it, and then where in wrestling, on the other hand, it's like most of the time it's people saying, "Oh, this match was so good." I'm like, "Eh," it just go. So I'm the complete opposite. I'm a lot more positive when it comes to comic book movies for whatever reason. Um, I have to watch it a second time, but it didn't make sense. There's a lot of things that doesn't make sense. The whole witch thing. Why does it work? Oh yeah, wait, hold on. I'll get into that in just a second. So yeah, I like that it had. Not only did I have, and so yeah, I'm not trying to turn this into a tribalist thing to the DC and Marvel kind of thing. And if it was, you know where my allegiance lies. Marvel all the way, all day, baby. But anyway, the point of the matter is, what I liked about this was that it reflexively was doing things that Marvel, the MCU, hasn't had the courage to do, which I like, because of the hokiness and the cheesiness. That's where I was kind of going with this. I don't know if anyone caught this or anyone felt the same way, but when they introduced the Dreamstone, because I didn't know about that going in, I didn't know that's what they were doing, I didn't know what the plot device was, but when they introduced the Dreamstone, I was like, oh, because for some of you who may not be familiar, the cosmic cube in the comic books, it grants you wishes, the ability to get what you want. But in the MCU, they made an Infinity Stone, and it was just how you travel through space, and sometimes an energy source or Captain Marvel or whatever, powering Captain Marvel for reasons or whatever. They used it. They just didn't having your wish come true. And I'm not saying this is definitely why Marvel didn't do it, but it seemed like Marvel was like, that's too hokey. Let's try to make it something else. And that's cool, Brian, to tone down the cheesiness, the camp factor. I get that. That has value in itself. But there are certain things from the comic books that I kind of like. An example when DC did it is like Smallville, and I love this about Smallville. They made Red Kryptonite just make Clark bad, which I thought was so cool. But in the comic book, originally Red Kryptonite was like goofy random magic. It just made anything. It just did whatever you felt like the plot needed to do in this issue. So they toned it down. So yeah, again, toning it down or finding a more grounded or a less hokey kind of answer to things is fine. It has a value in itself. But a lot of times, I like comic books for how silly and over the top or campy or cheesy or hokey or whatever you want to call it. I like how much they could go for that. So while the Cosmic Cube, they didn't want to go into the wish fulfillment thing. Wonder Woman said, "Screw it. Here's your object. Here's your plot device. Here's your MacGuffin, and it is going to be your dream, make your dreams come true." It's like the movie. I know this is a weird thing to bring up, but like the movie Liar Liar. Did they ever get into the mechanics of how birthday wishes coming true through magic? No. They don't waste your time on the mechanics of it. Here's your plot device. Shut up. The kid made a birthday wish, and we'll move on. So it's just what they do. And I kind of like that from movies. I want every once in a while not to get bogged down with trying to weigh out the logistics of every minor detail. Yeah, and I know this is me talking, but just every once in a while, I just want to kind of just go along for the ride and enjoy it. And this is what I was doing for this movie as well. And another part of it, one of my favorite things was in the Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers cartoon, which I love. how when they were going after the Cosmic Cube, and Cap does touch the Cosmic Cube, and they were talking about what do you wish, and he says nothing. I don't actually, I don't wish for anything. But then they cut and they show you Bucky actually survives from back time, and that's how they brought back Bucky. I was like, what? That's amazing. I freaked out. It's like Cap didn't even know that's what he was wishing for, and they kind of did that with Diana, and I was like. So I marked out because I was like, "Oh, you took that thing I love from the Avengers." I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but I'm just saying I loved it when the Avengers did it. The Avengers cartoon did it, and then when they did it for Wonder Woman, I was like, "That's amazing." I think it's a little more. Hey, Mike Borsam. So I thought that was a little more interesting. So. I was gonna be a sucker for that. So to roundabout get to your point, it's like, well, it didn't make sense. I like it just because it was this trick already worked on me once, so it was kind of cool to see it again. All right, let me catch up with the chat. Also, new people that joined the chat, we're now in spoiler territory. Thank you, Timothy Mendoza, for for the spoiler warning. To me, the difference between the DCU and the DCEU, I wish we could just call it the DCEU instead of MCU. You know what? Anyway, MCU is that DCEU gives directors their own identity, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. Yes, and I think bad is the primary way it worked out. Where MCU is safe and makes the films all the same. Yes, I prefer the MCU strategy because because I think in the beginning they tried to give the directors a little more autonomy, but it felt a little jumbled. I like the uniformity of it. I don't agree with all their choices, but I like that they at least feel like they're in the same. They feel more simpatico. They feel like they're all in the same timeline a little more for me, which is what I personally enjoy. Is like for me the only MCU movies I like are. I haven't seen Birds of Prey. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I like it. I don't like it a lot, but I like it. But Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn just nails it out of the park. I have a lot of problems with it too. Yeah, I've talked about this before. I'm like furious about what they did with Cassandra Cain, but at the same hand, when movies change comic book characters around, I kind of expect it now. So it doesn't get me that bent out of shape in terms of how I enjoy the movie. But I am like mad, or I am disappointed, should I say? But it doesn't. It doesn't affect how I actually watch or enjoy the movie. I can separate the two, even though I would prefer it if it goes the other way. Harry Flynn says, "Well, remember Harry Flynn? He blew up in a plane, so he got blowed up, and like 70 years ago. So I don't think we'd have to worry about that. So yeah, Harry, I don't think we have to worry about that." Much last night, Mike Borsam did not like it. Okay, like Wonder Woman has never shown this ability before where she can turn into jet's fizzle now. And she could fly at the end, making the whole invisible jet pointless. Yeah, well, see, this is a common thing. With the Wonder Woman's jumbled storyline, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. Because sometimes she can fly, sometimes she can't. It is weird because in the DCEU, they've never shown whether she could fly or not. They like in Batman vs Superman, she jumped really far, and it looked like maybe she flew, maybe she didn't. Justice League and all that. So I don't think she flew in Justice League. I only watched it once, and I do not want to watch it again to find out. But yeah, so it's kind of weird that they didn't bring that up. But again, it's like screw it. The new powers thing. Let's put it this way: if you have a problem with, and maybe you do, but for me, if you have a problem with this making things invisible, and I understand that it does, the flying thing I get. But I'm fine with it because I actually like one. I prefer Wonder Woman flying, and yes, the invisible jet is useless, but that's been a complaint as old as time. They've rationalized it from time to time. It's a whole ordeal, but I like the invisible jet at least getting cameo. A real quick story: Christmas a couple of years ago, Brian from Monday Night Wrong, his daughter loved Wonder Woman, so for Christmas I got her the invisible jet. But she only knew Wonder Woman from the movie, and she's like, "What is the invisible jet?" She had no idea what it was, and I had to like give her the whole like spiel and like, well, Wonder Woman is, and like, why does she need a jet? I was like, well, because. So this is a topic very near and dear to my heart. But anyway, I like this just an excuse to cram the invisible jet in there. The real question is, why were all these planes in the Smithsonian? Why did they have gas or fuel in them? And how could Steve Trevor, who hasn't seen a plane 70 years of advancements, knew how to fly this plane somehow? The planes back then were very different. Anyway, I mean, if you really want to nitpick. Anyway, but the other thing is, let's look at Days of Futures Past. Kitty Pryde has this new power of turning people's consciousness back in time, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of times where we get new powers added on in comic book movies, and if they can rationalize it, I kind of don't mind it. Yes, the implications of the invisible of her having the ability to turn things invisible. Yeah, that's a power that probably should come in handy a lot more often than it does. And the explanation is that Zeus was able to turn Themyscira invisible. I like that. That was enough of justification to me. Although I kind of wish they didn't go that route and that she did it to a coffee mug once and then it disappeared. It would have been really funny if later on in the movie, at some point in time, they turn around and something, then you just hear a coffee mug break. That would be pretty funny. Um, to me, it would have been cool if it was like a token or an amulet or something. If they somehow established that it probably would give things away, which I don't care. Also, if she turned the plane invisible from inside the cockpit, how come the interior wasn't invisible and only the exterior was? I'm just saying, if you really want to be technical here, which I don't, but if there was some sort of like device do a dingy and she only has like one of them or a couple of them and she's going to use it to turn her jet invisible or whatever, to me, that I probably would prefer that. But again, this is a nitpicky thing. It's one of those things where the movie set me up for the mall fight, which was fun. It set me up for enough fun where I just kind of go, okay, along for a ride. And that's pretty much what I want from movies. Get me to the point where if I'm nitpicking about things, it's because I'm bored. If I'm like deconstructing the physics and the reality of it, it's because I hate the movie and I'm looking for reasons to crap on it. But yeah, watch stands up here is Dreamstone. Room in my Infinity Gauntlet. Ah, see? Yeah, I could have dealt without that, Harry. I could have dealt without him becoming the Dreamstone. I get it. But those mechanics were weird. Because I don't think that was defined enough as much as I was talking about the exposition, all that. I thought that was an unnecessary element that kind of made things a bit rougher. Because if you can only grant one wish, how come Cheetah got two? You know what I'm saying? Or how come he doesn't give himself more wishes? And if he could give himself more wishes, then he doesn't need to be the Dreamstone in the first place. It was cool. So I know. Yeah. I like the Invisible Jet. This is it. But I got a personal story, because, I got one for the kid. And then, So I like the Invisible Jet. Because, but also, remember, that's what I grew up with. Like, Super Friends was how I was introduced to the Justice League. So as far as I'm concerned, that's cool. Personally, I think the best Marvel films are the ones not in the MCU, like Logan, Spider-Man 2, and Into the Spider-Verse. It's a shame that Disney are shoving everything into the MCU. Well, hey, I respect your opinion. I don't feel that way. I love the original Iron Man still. I love Infinity War. Black Panther for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. Civil War, but my all-time favorite is Captain America: Winter Soldier. So, all my favorite Marvel movies are in the MCU. Spider-Man 2, I'll give you, is, I don't know, I've never thought of where to rank that in comparison to the rest of the MCU films, but Captain America: The Winter Soldier is probably my favorite comic book movie ever. Forget just MCU, it's probably my favorite comic book movie there is. Black Panther I like a lot too, as well as Infinity War. So, but yeah, to each their own. Marvel. It seems like Marvel and DC are polar opposites. Marvel can't make good animation, and DC can't make good live action. Like I said, I disagree. I think DC has made several good live actions, and also let's not forget that if we go outside of DC Extended Universe, there is, of course, the Nolan movies. Which I have taken my shots at, but I also think, again, like the Nolan movies, they don't make sense either. But if you just enjoy the ride and shut up, they're fine. Exception of Cross the Spider-Verse. I like the Spider-Verse. I forget that. I love the Spider-Verse. I don't think it's the, as it won here on the Gauntlet match. You guys voted for that as the greatest comic book movie of all time. That is way too high praise for me. I don't think it's the greatest comic book movie to ever exist. It's not even close. Like, I wouldn't even put it in my top 10. I swear, everyone always forgets about the good DC films. Yeah, because DC just has a reputation for being crap now. So yeah, a lot of people do forget about the good ones. Because once you establish a reputation, that is the first line of defense. This is the first thing that everyone thinks of. This is the first thing to pop in people's minds. And you're kind of screwed. Another reason why for the mixed reactions is because there are people who are complaining that the film is too woke. Maxwell Lord, I don't think he is. Battling while others say that it's not woke enough portrayal of Middle Easterns. Yeah, well, the woke for the woke thing is a sensitive topic for all, and I think that the Maxwell Lord thing. I don't fully. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to move on. The chat. Things are going really good, so I'm trying to jump around. Uh, I'm going to try to touch on this real quick. I think it's different because with Maxwell Lord, they portrayed him as a flawed character, and people who only know him in the past like decade or so really only know Maxwell Lord as like the supervillain, as like Diet Lex Luthor, but originally he was a more he was a tweener. He was a little more ambiguity. There's a little more ambiguity with he's good or bad, and they made him more redeemable. So I'm sure that people are going to make the connect dots all the time when they say, "Oh, this guy is rich and powerful, so he's like this." No, it's not. That's a stretch. There's no connection as far as I'm concerned. They're completely but yeah, but people are gonna take it how they want. But I really I love Pedro Pascal's performance, and I thought they made him a redeeming character, and they showed levels. But it was the same thing with Minerva, Barbara Minerva, Cheetah as well. They gave her different levels, and it's something that I've always liked about the DC, about the Marvel universe, comics and film, is that they gave depth to their villains. Doc Ock, for most of my life, he was just a classic bank robbing supervillain. Nothing wrong with that per se. But then with Spider-Man 2, what was great about it was they gave him the wife. They had the whole thing about the tentacles and changing him and what he was trying to do, and his rich mentor relationship with Peter. They really explored that and went deep into it, which I liked. So that's what I love about this. And so when it came to Cheetah, she was a less interesting villain for me too, because yeah, she had a cool backstory and it happened relatively quickly, and you got her motivation, and it was believable. You understand how she had that transition, but since the Dreamstone takes away something from you, and it seemed that her humanity is what she was losing, I wish they had. See, this is kind of the letting things breathe thing I wanted. I wish they had time to showcase that more. I wish they made it that Barbara was a really sweet and loving human person, and that's why Diana really likes her. They talked about it, but very briefly. I wish we had more signs of show that's her number one trait, because I think it would have made her heel turn. Not to use wrestling terminology, but I think it would have made it more impactful that she's losing her humanity. And the same thing with Pedro Pascal. It seemed like he was losing his health, but they didn't really. Was that a symptom of becoming a Dreamstone, or was that a symptom of was that what he lost? Because then, like, why isn't it more pronounced that he's just a super healthy guy and that was his thing? Because then that would make a little more sense. So it's like stuff like that was what were the details I get tripped on, because I think we all get tripped up on different details. So while a lot of the details you guys are tripped up on, which is perfectly okay and perfectly understandable, like I said, to each their own. These were my issues with it. I swear. Okay, sorry. I know I'm trailing behind. Personally, I think the best Marvel. Okay, wait. All right. Invisible. Wait, crap. I went way too far back. I love Wrestling Magazine Easter egg. Yes, I like that too. Jerry Lawler making a cameo. I'm still annoyed about how badly they ruined MCU Spider-Man. I don't think they did. But hey, that's just me. Too many characters and no one is ever developed, and plots just get stupid. It's always of kid-friendly comedies. I don't think that's true. Like I said, I don't think Winter Soldier is a kid-friendly comedy, like, at all. I don't think Black Panther is a kid-friendly comedy at all. So, but if that's how you see it, that's how you see it. For the ambiguous Maxwell lore over the villainous one, so I heard the film version is closer. He is much closer, and that's what he's closer to the way he was originally presented, and that's what I liked, because Lex is my boy. I'm a huge Lex Luthor fan. He is my favorite comic book villain, any company ever. And if you put him in that well, then he's not going to compete. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan when it comes to comic books that if there's a guy who is known for blank, you make him the most blank there is. Like the Flash, he's the fastest. He's a superhero who's known for being fast. Make him the fastest. Period. Superman and Flash, it shouldn't be close. Superman should lose badly in every race that he has with the Flash every single time. Because Superman's got a bajillion powers. Flash has just got this one thing. Let this dude have the one thing. You know, jack of all trades, master of none. Let this dude have his day. So Lex is the maniacal, mad genius supervillain type. That's his role. He's the guy. Let that go. And if we make Maxwell Lord play in that realm, well, it's either he's going to take over the OG, which I ain't cool with, or he falls short, in which case you're setting him up to fail. So let's just create it what it is and say, let's make him something different. So if his thing is he's kind of, there's ambiguity between his, is he a good guy or a bad guy, and it's more like he lives in his own world and he has his own moral code and there's shades of gray, and he's a shades of gray guy, then that's awesome. It's, in my opinion. It's bad. They have some decent films. Yes, it's actually so misunderstood. Look, Luke Barber. You're not getting it from me. You feel that way, but I do not. I think, as I said, very small handful of DC EU films I like. You realize this is subjective. You want to say that it's misunderstood. Okay, I'm not getting into it, but you think what you think. Because Luke, this is not going to be your place. If you're trying to ignite the DC Marvel war, again, I know I've done a lot of talking about both, but try to keep this about Wonder Woman and stop letting this be your place to vent and complain about Marvel. I recently watched Black Panther, loved it. Feels like Phase 1 or Phase 2 is a complete and is a compliment, as I felt Phase 3 is also mixed. So it's really good to get good, but not Best Picture Oscar good. Fair enough. Austin original movie used to be better, but then it just got super silly later on. You said that already. Plus, with the exception of Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman 1, the rest of the DCU is... Look, hey, Mike Borsam, I understand, but yeah. Don't worry, I'm not igniting any war. We're just talking about MCU movies, DC stuff. So I talked about it. Okay, they're both completely different things. Okay, good. That bad, but listen. Let's not start the pissing contest back and forth between. It's not that bad. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Look, let's just move on. Okay. Because I don't get it. I mean, I really don't get it. I really don't understand it, and it's just. I don't want to turn this into thing, but I don't understand it at all. The people who defend, certain movies, forget it. I'm not even going to bother. I'll be back. Okay, take it easy. Okay, but back on things. So when it comes to, like I said, I like this second Wonder Woman movie. I like that it felt more fun than the first one. I thought cinematically it was much better looking than the first one. Let's get into the things I like better about the second Wonder Woman. The flying scenes. I thought they looked fantastic. I thought the shots were gorgeous. I thought they looked somehow it looked like flying in a way presented that I've never seen before. And I've seen people fly in movies since like forever. But seeing Wonder Woman fly, there was the way the lighting, the way the sun hit, it looked and it felt something important, and it was a very upliftingly filmed. The way it was shot was it was capturing this uplifting movement, and it did well. It was a very well shot series of events, so I liked her flying. I actually thought it was presented because the way Man of Steel made flying, the way Wonder Woman did it to me felt the way Man of Steel was trying to make Superman fly feel. You know what I'm saying? You need to succeed, but most of it isn't any good. Yes, I agree, but let's just move on. Like I said, I don't want to start this back and forth about it's not that bad. Give it a chance. Because before you know it, someone's going to bring up something that I don't want to talk about that I've already got enough flack on the channel about, so we'll move on. Favorite Lex Luthor, Bronze Age Luthor was written by Elliot S. Nice. Megan, who is still a criminal, but more dimension, which is why I love Smallville Lex, because he's kind of a modern interpretation. Yes, and it's like Kingpin 2 is very Lex-like, but he's at least like a criminal, like underboss kind of thing. So they're separate enough. So corporate genius bad guy Lex is what I like. DC was going through a really Gritty, dark face. I like Shazam because it was fun. Exactly. That's the same, and that's why I give Aquaman a pass. I know it's not really a good movie, but I like it just because it's freaking silly. Shazam, I love Shazam. I was watching that on Christmas, or at least close to it, or somewhat recently. I watched it the past couple of days. I love Shazam. Just a fun movie. That's what I liked about the first Wonder Woman movie. It was fun. It was positive, and it wasn't droll. It was good, and I was just like, okay, good. This is all I want. I also love the Wonder Woman score. That music that plays, I love that song. It is. I can't get enough of that. Every time it kicks on, I'm like, yeah. I know that's not really that big of a deal, but I love that song. Uh, DC was, oh yeah, right. So yeah, but that's what I like, but I get that there are going to be a lot of people who hate that and who view anything that's positive or bright and colorful as cheesy, hokey, and for children. But as I said in the very beginning of this, I don't feel the need. I want that from a comic book movie, and also I think if you commit to it from a story perspective, from a directorial perspective, and from an acting perspective. And if you hire the right people to present it, nothing is off the wall. Nothing is outlandish. Nothing is unacceptable. Everything can be attainable. Uh, everything can make for good cinema. Especially when you just think of all the things we've seen in movies. And or you because if you want to talk about like Superman 2, I love Superman 2. But why do the Kryptonians magically know how to speak English when they come to Planet Houston? It doesn't make any sense. All these things don't make any sense if you really stop there and get down to brass tacks. But you accept them because you just do. So, and comic book movies to me are notorious for it. That if you really stop to pick apart any movie, but especially comic book movies, you'll be there to the end of time because none of it makes sense. Everyone has that line. It's in a different place for everyone, I think. Where's too far, where's not far enough. Like I said, my personal stopgap is when you give me the rules of this Dreamstone, say that everybody gets one wish, and it takes away their biggest attribute. Cool. But then why do some people get second wishes? And since when is this guy's his biggest attribute, you know? Yeah, Mike Borst, I might agree with that. Yeah, Batman, dark and gritty. It's like Punisher, dark and gritty. We don't want a happy, fan-friendly Punisher, but outside of that, yeah. Books are meant to be fun and should be in movies. That's how I personally feel. That's why I like the MCU, but, you know, this conversation is really hard when I'm bringing up, you know, a certain someone. Anyway, the Cheetah Fight didn't last long enough. Yeah, and I also thought it was, yeah, Luke, and I thought it was a little surprising the way she just, like, she saw, because Diana saw the the wire go into the water, and it's like, you didn't know she was going to survive this. That seemed a little dark. I thought that was kind of, and she just says, I'm sorry, and then just lets her go. It's like, yeah, she lived through it, but you didn't know she was going to. Especially since that Wonder Woman had kind of a, has like the, what Batman and Superman should feel like, the you know, the one rule. It seems this Wonder Woman has that. At least in this movie, she has that. But yes, that was kind of shocking to me. No pun intended. But yeah, I was surprised that she did that. That was how the fight ended. It was a little short, but I will also say this: that while I love Kristen Wiig's performance, the CGI Cheetah I thought looked terrible. Like, she didn't look as bad as the trailer made it seem, because so the trailer made it look like it was really bad, a lot, just pure bad CGI hair. It wasn't just that; it was there. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't great. The face was a little bit better than I expected, but it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad as what I thought from seeing it in the trailer, but it still wasn't good. Like, it looked ridiculous, and I know that's kind of a hard sell. I also wish they tied in more of the previous Cheetah's continuity, like in the current iteration, at least what I think is the current iteration, they've made it that Barbara Minerva has used the other aliases of the other cheetahs that came before her, Cheetah 1 and 2, and she's a criminal, and she's used other aliases. I thought that was kind of a cool way to tie them in, and that it's always been just one person as Cheetah. I definitely didn't need. I like the origin of it with the Dreamstone. Fine, that's enough for me. It was a little vague on, I just want to be an apex predator, and she just, and the only implications that you get from that is I like cheetahs because I like the print shoes. I don't know. It's how do you make a cheetah? It was acceptable enough, but I do wish there was a little more to it, or they justified that a little more. That was a little rough. So, the actual cheetah part of it was the holdup for me. They can do that. Okay, I'll bite. But yeah, I don't like the fact that Marvel keeps treating me with the Howard the Duck, threatening me with the Howard the Duck remake. Movie stick to Batman. Uh, okay, here's a good one. How do we feel about Mr. Matt Murdock? Because I get that he is a street level guy, but I don't know. I kind of don't want Matt Murdock to be dark and gritty myself. I actually wouldn't mind it because the idea of a blind superhero is an uplifting idea to me. I think that's really cool. So I would. Yeah, I know it's tough because you don't want to make it too bright because you're going to see this big red tomato running around the streets of New York during the daytime. It looks a little silly. Um, I probably wouldn't care once I saw it, but still. Um, but for me, that has a positive takeaway from it. That is something that you can kind of see the happiness into it. So but maybe but that's just my initial reaction. I don't know how everybody else feels. And it hasn't aged well. See, Barry, I still like Superman too. Well, in my opinion, the first Superman is my favorite superhero. I like Superman. I like Superman too. I mean, yeah. Man of Steel series. I did. I owned a Man of Steel series. I think it's okay. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. The part about the toy maker, and the Supergirl and toy maker was the part that I really liked the best. I also liked how we get to see what Lex Luthor thinks of Bruce Wayne. I also thought that was cool. It was good. It was good. But my expectations for that were like through the roof high. So I got tired of watching him get the money out of him for 3 seasons. Oh, they do that. Okay, I'll bite. Fair enough. Yeah, so my biggest issues with it are. So, anyway, my biggest issues with the movie were the whole. The whole mechanics of how the Dreamstone magic really works. I thought that was a bit clunky. And the ending reminded me of something, too. Oh, back to the Steve thing. I also thought that was a reflection. I also thought it was kind of cool because, yeah, it doesn't make sense that he's in someone else's body. Why couldn't they just bring him back? Bring him back. Agreed. I would have preferred that, but I kind of looked at it like the Thor and Donald Blake kind of thing that they were doing. So I was like, oh look, something else that Marvel didn't do, but they're just going to say, "Ah, screw it, we'll do it." I still would have preferred it if it was just Steve Trevor back. And it's a shame he's not going to be well unless they come up with another reason to jam him into the third movie. But it's a shame because I like Chris Pine. It would be cool to see him again in a Wonder Woman 3. It'd be cool if he could just be back and we could just have him on Wonder Woman 3. What was the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh yeah. So the idea that everybody in the world gets a wish and then they all take it back because they all realize it's for the better. It's a cool message, but I was like, but for me, like the Dark Knight at the end, where you know they both decide not to push the button. I was like, man, two bullets full of people and nobody decides to do it. I mean, I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. Everybody in the world turned, and I know the actual giving back their wish really doesn't matter. It's not actually part of the plot because all that mattered was that Maxwell Lord took back his wish. Once he renounced it, that's all that mattered. Um, but still, I just thought that was interesting, and I know they didn't make it seem like everyone actually did take back their wish. They just implied it, but still, kind of Venom the Cheetah. uh, kind of. Harry. At least I thought they were doing a rebooted character Vandal Savage thing instead of Dreamstone. Well, here's one thing. I know this is a hardship, but I really thought it was the Philosopher's Stone, and just like American Harry Potter doesn't want to call it the Philosopher's Stone, but it's fine. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's a nitpick thing. Um, I thought the plot was good. I thought the plot was interesting. I wish just the little nuances of the mechanics were cleaned up a bit, just a little more streamlined and and a little more fleshed out. But because of the fun factor of the movie and it's a comic book thing, you kind of glaze over it, and it just doesn't. I didn't fixate on it that much, but I still would. So I would have preferred that they changed it slightly, but for what it was, I thought it was pretty good. Um, and yeah, so I think I covered everything. All right, so let's wrap this up. Do we have any other thoughts? Anything else we want to talk about? Any other pieces of insight you guys have to share before we wrap this up? Oh, yeah. Anything that you guys want to talk about? Bally says, "What interested in stories like Lex Luthor, Man of Steel is the stories told from a villain point of view, tries to validate an interest." Yeah, no, of course, absolutely, absolutely. I only think it works for some characters. There's some characters where like getting their point of view may not be all that interesting, or I just personally don't care. But yeah, I will say that it does make. I don't think it works for everybody, but I do think it works. I do think it works a lot for certain villains, and Lex is definitely one of them. In yeah, yeah, Mike Borsom, yeah, as well. But while we did want to talk about how, oh, and thank you for likes anyway. But while we do want to talk about DC's animation successes, let's not pretend like they're all great because they definitely make some mistakes. Mike Borsom, that's one of them. Comic book, great. Animated film, not so much. I was really disappointed by that one. I had a lot of high hopes. Okay, anyway, well, thank you so much for the likes. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on Wonder Woman. And if you couldn't be here live or you want to avoid spoilers, give it a watch and let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, Dave knows.